This is a Fox News alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. Hillary Clinton continues her testimony at this hour before the House Select Committee on Benghazi. We will take you back there live shortly. First, a recap of what's gone on since the hearing began 8 hours ago, plus analysis from our expanded all-star panel. Let's begin with our Fox team coverage. Catherine Herridge is here with some fact-checking of what Clinton said today. But we begin with Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel tonight from Capitol Hill. Good evening, Mike.
Brett, good evening. Well, Hillary Clinton has spoken about Benghazi before. This time, her email provided a useful tool to help with asking her questions.
I was the one who asked Chris to go to Libya as our envoy.
3 years after the Benghazi attack, former Secretary of State and current presidential candidate Hillary Clinton testified before the Select Committee looking into the incident which ended with the death of Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. Republican Chairman Trey Gowdy said the focus was on the Americans killed and not on campaign politics.
There are people, frankly, in both parties who have suggested that this investigation is about you. Let me assure you it is not. This investigation is about 4 people who were killed representing our country on foreign soil.
Clinton's Democratic allies, including Ranking Member Elijah Cummings, suggested this was a waste of time and money.
The Select Committee has spent 17 months and $4.7 million of taxpayer money.
Ohio Republican Jim Jordan used Clinton's own email to family members and foreign dignitaries hours after the attack to show she didn't really believe the Obama administration narrative an internet video was to blame for Benghazi.
You could tell the truth, like you did with your family, like you did with the Libyan president, like you did with the Egyptian prime minister. Tell them it was a terrorist attack. You picked the video narrative.
Clinton said nobody feels worse about Benghazi than she does.
I've lost more sleep than all of you put together. I have been racking my brain about what more could have been done.
As for Stevens, Clinton said he was aware Libya was a dangerous assignment.
Chris Stevens understood that diplomats must operate in many places where our soldiers do not. In fact, he volunteered for just those assignments.
Republicans note Stevens made hundreds of requests for more security in 2012, but Clinton said she didn't micromanage people handling those matters.
Those requests and issues related to security were rightly handled by the security professionals in the department. I did not see them. I did not approve them. I did not deny them.
But Indiana Republican Susan Brooks suggested Clinton and her team took their eye off Libya in the months before the attack.
In this pile in 2011, I see daily updates, sometimes hourly updates, from your staff about Benghazi and Chris Stevens. When I look at this pile, in 2012, I only see a handful of emails to you from your senior staff about Benghazi.
Clinton acknowledged Stevens didn't have her personal email address, but lawmakers now have hundreds of her friend Sidney Blumenthal's electronic messages. That led to sparks flying between the chairman and the panel's top Democrat.
Why is it that you only want Mr. Blumenthal's transcript released? Why don't you want the survivors? The survivors, even their names?
Let me
you want
tell you
that?
something. No,
you want that released?
It is noteworthy that Blumenthal emails and memos got her attention, and yet security requests from her ambassador in Libya, she says, did not reach her desk. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thanks. Again, we'll head back live in just a minute. Let's get some more details from Hillary Clinton's testimony before the House Select Committee on Benghazi and some apparent contradictions. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here tonight. Good evening, Catherine. Mrs. Clinton said today there was never a recommendation to leave Benghazi.
Well, that's right, Brett. Mrs. Clinton testified today there was a certain level of comfort with the high threat level and the operation was not in jeopardy.
There was never a recommendation from any intelligence official in our government, from any official in the State Department, or from any other person with knowledge of our presence in Benghazi to shut down Benghazi.
But this classified cable, first obtained by Fox News, shows there was an emergency meeting in Benghazi 3 weeks before the 2012 attack. And at that meeting, State Department and CIA personnel discussed suspending operations for the consulate and moving State Department personnel in with the CIA where security was high. Quote, CIA suggested that mission personnel could co-locate to the annex if the security environment degraded suddenly. In the longer term, we believe former co-location with the CIA will greatly improve our security situation. The State Department has always been reluctant to confirm the emergency meeting took place, and the classified cable was one of the last documents provided to the Senate Intelligence Committee investigation, Brett.
So were there plans to make the consulate or the facility permanent in Benghazi?
Well, today Mrs. Clinton gave the impression that the U.S. operation in eastern Libya was only temporary.
There was not an active plan for a consulate in Benghazi at any point during this period. That is not what the compound in Benghazi was. It was a temporary facility placed there to help us make a determination as to what we would need going forward in Benghazi.
But Ambassador Chris Stevens' deputy, Greg Hicks, testified under oath on Capitol Hill about a specific conversation he had with Stevens about Mrs. Clinton's plan.
I did tell the Accountability Review Board that Secretary Clinton wanted the post made permanent. Ambassador Pickering was surprised.
Hicks later told Fox News that Stevens had to be in Benghazi that September 11th because of a budget deadline at the end of that month, Brett.
Last thing, Secretary Clinton said today there was a lot of confusion about the attack.
Well, the mortar strike on the CIA annex is really the smoking gun evidence that it was premeditated terrorism. 3 mortars struck the CIA in under 90 seconds, fired from more than a half-mile away. It was a professional hit that required training and planning. It killed former Navy SEALs Ty Woods and Glenn Doherty, and it nearly blew off the leg of a diplomatic security agent. And today, Mrs. Clinton's emails show that she didn't believe herself that a video was responsible for this terrorist attack, Brett.
All right, Catherine, thank you. Let's bring in our special expanded panel for some thoughts on the day. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Judge Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst. A.B. Stoddard, associate editor of The Hill. And syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Steve.
I would say the lead from the day so far is Hillary Clinton repeatedly offers false or misleading testimony, and journalists yawn. Journalists just don't seem to be that interested in what she's been saying. And I'll give you one example in particular. Secretary Clinton was presented with emails from Representative Jim Jordan, an email that she sent to Hillary Clinton on the night of the attack, September 11th, 2012, saying that it was an al-Qaeda attack.
Sent to Chelsea.
Sent to Chelsea Clinton, I'm sorry. Hillary Clinton to Chelsea Clinton, saying it was an al-Qaeda attack. And then this memo that was taken by a State Department note taker, recording a conversation between Hillary Clinton and the Egyptian Prime Minister September 12th. In both of those instances, Hillary Clinton is saying this was an attack. This was not a protest, she said in the phone conversation with the Egyptian Foreign Minister, and said that it had nothing to do with the video. And yet, 2 days later, on September 14th, when she greets the caskets at Joint Base Andrews in suburban Washington, D.C., she tells some of the family members of those killed in Benghazi that she and the government were determined to get the filmmaker who was responsible for the death of their children. You can't have it both ways.
All right, as we take a live look, Judge, they've just taken a break. They're going to be back at 6:14. We will be back when they go back into session in the questioning. We're now on our 3rd round, the beginning of the 3rd round. There are supposed to be 4 rounds. This could be a long situation. Your thoughts on the day?
I look at this from the point of view of 3 audiences she should be thinking about addressing. The first is the members of Congress that are there in the room. The second is the American public, which she wants to elect her president. And the third, I think she's forgotten about. That's about 25 FBI agents and investigators in the Justice Department not far from where she testified today, who are looking at the following things she said. They're looking for material misrepresentations. They're looking for the willingness to deceive. They're looking for actual material lies. Remember, she's under oath. And they're looking for how many different versions she can possibly give of the various events. And I suggest to you that they found a field day today My colleague Steve Hayes has just outlined a couple of her deceptions and different versions. Remember, she can be prosecuted for misleading Congress as well as for lying to Congress. She is under oath. This is not a political rally. She's also being investigated by the FBI for at least 4 crimes: espionage, the failure to secure national security secrets, destruction of government property, wiping the server clean, lying under oath to a federal judge when she said she gave the government everything. And I think the FBI has a lot more to go on today as a result of this testimony, because she forgot about that third and hidden audience.
AB, to hear a lot of people talk about this, they say there's an overabundance of coverage and focus on Sidney Blumenthal. There was several rounds of questions about it from different lawmakers, Trey Gowdy among them. Sid Blumenthal, not a part of the government apparatus. In fact, he was turned down by the White House to work with his old friend Hillary Clinton, but he was still providing what he called intelligence, and she was still accepting it. Here's the back and forth with Trey Gowdy on Sid Blumenthal.
Regardless of where he ranked in the order of advisors, it is undisputed that a significant number of your emails were to or from a Sidney Blumenthal. Did the president know that Mr. Blumenthal was advising you?
He wasn't advising me. And, you know,
Did he know that he was your most prolific emailer that we have found on the subjects of Libya and Benghazi?
That's because I didn't do most of my work
That's
about
fair.
Libya on
I'm
email.
not challenging that, Madam Secretary. I am not challenging that. My question to you is, did the president, did he know that he was advising you?
He was not advising me, and I have no reason to have ever mentioned that or know that the president knew that.
She went on to say that she used some of those emails and the memos that he sent on, took his name off of it, and circulated it in intel circles and at the White House.
Right. Well, most Americans don't know who Sid Blumenthal is. We've discussed these very emails here in the last couple weeks, and we've talked about how clear it is that he's a friend. The emails are solicited. There's a back and forth. There's 500 or more of them. She's very encouraging and enthusiastic. He gives her all kinds of advice, disparages other people, and it's a free-flowing exchange, and they're in constant contact. I'm on a plane now. I'll talk to you as soon as I get off. What she did today was brilliant, and she was an impeccable witness, because there are no sound bites where she implodes. She both said he was not an advisor, and in turn said sometimes the information was so valuable she thought the ambassador in Libya should have it to read and respond to. So she never, it was the same with the discussion about the video. Why did you try out the video line? She managed to never become defensive. She was masterful, and that's why there's no soundbite where she freaks out and gives. If it ends up that she's perjured herself and we're only halfway through this, fine, we'll find that out tomorrow. Her performance right now is better than the Democrats on that committee and better than the Republicans.
Clearly measured and different from the soundbite that got a lot of pickup, Charles, last time. What difference does it make in that whole exchange? Everybody's saying, what difference does that make? Is this not a rabbit hole they're going down? But in the context of Chris Stevens, whose emails, a lot of them arrived at the committee this week, he did not have direct access to Hillary Clinton asking for security improvements, but Sid Blumenthal did.
I think that's a fair point, but I think the committee Republicans on the committee spent much too much time on that. If you're talking about the Benghazi affair, the lack of security at the beginning, who knows what happened during the attack, and then the outright lies afterwards. The fact that Sid had the email address and the ambassador didn't is a point, but it's a very minor point. It's not going to persuade anybody. Look, Trey Gowdy is a terrific interrogator. If you ever want to commit a murder, you make sure you do it in a district where he is not the prosecutor, because you might have a chance. But I think he wasted a lot of his valuable time on that. There was new information, damning information. I think this email that she sent to her daughter and the phone call she made with the Prime Minister of Egypt are really quite shocking.
Well, let's listen to that again, and it's also clipped with what she said before and also what she told the father of Tyrone Woods.
Email you sent to your family. Here's what you said. At 11 o'clock that night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an al-Qaeda-like group. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth. But that's not what the American